Okay, great. We're live. Hello, everyone, from a middle of the day in the cozy winelands of Stellenbosch. We've got a pretty warm day out there after weeks of rain and actually also some flooding. And maybe the sun being out is also a token of some of the new light that we're seeing in the venture capital world. Very nice if you're joining us today. Welcome back if you are an existing Simple Capital community member. And if you are new to our foray, very nice to meet you. My name is Willem van der Post, and I'm joined with Philip Werner, our CEO and co-founder of Maekersuite, and Blake Musgrove, CIO of Simple Capital. We'll get them introduced in a second. Perhaps while we just give 1 or 2 minutes for everyone else to log on, join, and get settled behind their machines. There is a quick QR code that we can put on screen. As you know, if you are a part of our community, we do like to make these webinars two-way as much as possible. And that QR code that's on screen right now, you can hover a smart device over. It will then open up a WhatsApp channel, which you can use to pose questions to Philip about anything that we present to you today. So think of it as a live two-way stream. I've got a screen dedicated to it here on my right-hand side, so it's not me being distracted. It's me looking at incoming messages that we will then put to Philip during the course of our conversation, or to Blake if it relates to appropriate content around investment structuring and some such. While we're doing that and while we're waiting for people to log on, I normally do this myself as well. And then I am in that group. So I'll do it live, give you some time to maybe just join that same group as well. There it goes, join group. And all right, we're in. So with that then, we've got a quick agenda for today. We'll do some welcome and introduction. We'll talk about what Maekersuite is, an update of Maekersuite, where we are today, what the ask is, deal structure and requirements, and then a section in which anything goes. Now, you can do that questioning via this group that we've all just joined, or if you're joining via YouTube in the chat functionality right below. All right, so that then I think allows us to kick off. As per usual, we do have some T's and C's to cross. And perhaps just as the front end of this conversation, can I just quickly bring Blake into the fray? Blake, nice to see you again. I believe if you're wearing a jersey, it's a cold day in Umhlanga or Salt Rock, which is a rare occurrence. Can I ask you to talk us through the minimum requirements for participating investors, please?
Sure. So I think first, Courtney, if you can just bring up the cursory disclaimer that's required.
There we go.
Thank you. And we'll just pause on that for a few seconds. Thanks, Courtney. And if you can move over 2 slides just to the minimum requirements for participating investors. So we are using a Vauban structure. It's a nominee structure. Vauban, a credible infrastructure player in the investment space in the UK, acquired by Carter. This structure allows investors from the UK, from Europe, from the US, and on a Pan-African landscape to invest in this opportunity. And in order to do so, you'll need to self-certify that you are a sophisticated investor, and this can be done via the Vauban platform. Now, just as a reminder, you just need to self-certify that you meet one of the following requirements. One is that you're a member of a network of business angels and have been so for at least 6 months prior to the date of investment. You have made at least one investment in an unlisted private company in the last 2 years prior to the date of investment. You are working or have worked in the last 2 years in a professional capacity in the private equity or the provision of finance for small businesses, so SMEs, or you're a director currently or in the last 2 years prior to investing of a company with an annual turnover at least £1 million. If you have any doubts or any questions surrounding meeting one of these requirements and the self-certification process via the Vauban platform, please get in touch.
There we go. Blake, thank you very much. Courtney, I'll ask you just to go back 1 slide so we can just talk panelists. These are the faces. You've already seen us on screen, so now you see us twice. Philip Werner being the star attraction today. Philip, welcome. Nice to see you.
Thank you for having me.
There we go. Nice to hear your voice again. Remind our users of where you find yourself on the globe.
Yes, absolutely. So first of all, thank you guys for doing this webinar with me. You've been supporting us from the very beginning. So I'm very excited for the next hour. I am Philip, and I'm based out of Germany, Munich, where I was born and raised. And then after 17 years of traveling the world and living in multiple countries, I've come back. And yeah, maybe let me tell you a little bit about myself and my journey, and why I'm one of the founders of this business. So I grew up in a family of film creators, so was always very close to storytelling, but then decided to do business. So I went to business school in France, the UK, and Germany for my bachelor's and my master's degree, before starting my career working for one of Europe's biggest production companies named Fremantle. And I joined them in a very, very exciting phase, which was in 2012, 2013, when online video started to become a thing. And I was hired as a strategic manager for Fremantle in Germany, in Berlin. And my job essentially was to find new business models in the online video space for a production company that big. And we predominantly at that time worked with the first wave of online video talent on YouTube. So throughout my my stay at Fremantle, I piloted almost 50 different formats, YouTube channels for big brands like Microsoft and Porsche. We figured out what social media influencing really means, and how you can make money from it, and how you can advertise using it. So spend a lot of time talking to big corporates, convincing them not to spend any more money on print and TV. And after a couple of years with them, I felt brave enough to start my first business, which was a video production company and social media agency in Berlin, which we ran for 5 years. And throughout those 5 years, we worked for companies like BMW, Opel, Tommy Hilfiger, and other brands from the fashion and food industry. And I also learned everything about video, from conceptualizing, writing storylines, setting up production teams that are as big as 60 people on set, to small run and gun shootings with 2 people. And yeah, basically learned everything about video. And then the natural evolution from running an agency is, after a couple of years, asking yourself, how can I get out of this this endless wheel of creativity and selling your own creativity. And that's how the idea for Maekersuite started, is how can we take a process, a creative process, simplify it, streamline it, and use technology to make it accessible to people who need it.
Well, there you go, Philip. Great introduction. We've long held the view that the next Steven Spielberg will not be silver screen, but will be digital screen. And certainly from your background, the foundation is there to help us usher in this era. And I'm super excited to hear more about the Maekersuite update and where we are and what the ask is for today. So to our production team, let's put up slide number 5 when we talk about why we have this webinar today. Let's be upfront and clear about that. Blake, I think this was yours to just quickly talk us through before we get into an expose on Maekersuite.
Thanks, Philip. I'll touch on the key high-level terms of the deal, and then I'll hand over to Philip just as to why he's been keen to open up this round to his community and where he sees the use of proceeds. So this is a seed extension round raising up to $750,000, of which $400,000 has already been pre-committed by an existing investor. And basically, this will grow the business to at least 4,500 paying customers and $1 million in ARR. It is a price round, preferred equity via a Vorborn nominee structure, and we'll circle back to other pertinent terms towards the end of the webinar. Philip, maybe just touch on why you wanted to do this community raise and how you're going to use those proceeds.
Yeah, absolutely. So since we've founded the company, we've always had mentors and advisors who have helped us along the way to grow the business, to develop the product, and to make the right decisions. But we've always in the past had, on the previous rounds, had a minimum investment amount simply for administrative reasons. And that didn't really allow us to let small stake investors participate on our journey. And you guys came up with a great solution, and Bourbon as a vehicle to do this is the perfect solution for us to now have something in place that allows us to go out to our users, to other people that want to support us and don't necessarily want to spend large tickets, but believe in our vision, believe in our journey, believe in us as a team, and want to take part of this. Regarding the ask and the use of proceeds, so for the next couple of months, there's two main areas of investment for us, product and marketing. So on the product side, and you will learn a little bit more about this, but we want to invest in how we extract and save and tag the data that we're working with, in order to be able to help our users with audience segmentation, and to also dive deeper in what the parameters are that drive a good story. Just to give you a little glimpse of what we're doing is we look at online video, we look how it performs, we look at watch time intensity, and we can directly correlate image to the script and to the watch time intensity. And we save all this data, and in order to save it in the right way and for us to be usable in the future, we need to invest in our data infrastructure. We also want to improve our script writing output. So a lot is happening in the world of large language models, a lot of competition, and we have to always stay on top of the game, testing all of these models against each other. And then seeing which of these models fit perfectly into our value proposition. And then also on the marketing side, we currently are not spending any money on marketing except for the production of SEO content. And we want to double down on that because that has been very prosperous for us, and we want to increase our output on a monthly basis. We then also want to build up a secondary and tertiary acquisition channel. So producing content for social media on multiple social media platforms, and then also building partnerships.
Fantastic. So I think best way probably to help people understand and get a feel for what Maekersuite is all about, like what does this tool do and who will use it. You've prepared a short video.
Exactly, yeah.
Let's play that and maybe just refresh people that are already aware and invested in Maekersuite, and also help bring new investors on board with what the concept entails and what the tool is providing as an ability and the value that it has. Now, this is where our production gremlins must not let us down in a live demonstration, but this is the perils of venturing into solutions. Here we go.
Technology in the 21st century.
You know, there's the running joke, Philip, that AI is very easy, but AV is still nearly impossible to get 100% right. I think we've got some production. Just see if we're back online.
You're back online. The video is not.
There we go. All right. So I guess what we'll do, Philip, is perhaps just buy a little bit of time for the rebooting of the network in the
AI-powered
background,
video production.
at which time that video should
AI-powered
come
video
back up.
production tool
Here we
that
go.
combines analytics and creation, empowering businesses to grow through better and more targeted stories. You give us a keyword and we analyze thousands of published videos to tell you what your audience is watching and to show you what you should be creating next. We give you a video title, an outline, and we also write your script for you.
Right.
That was the big part of the video was in there. Let's put it this way.
Philip, let's do the
So
following.
maybe just let me quickly recap.
Let me jump in there and say, I think it's important that people watch that video. But for now, given where we are with our production, let's put that into the WhatsApp chat as a link, and then individuals could also watch that. But you did get a large part of us. If you had to paraphrase that video into just sort of 30 seconds of what the tool does, how would you articulate this in an elevator to someone?
Yeah. So what we're essentially doing is we help businesses who give us just a couple of words or information points about themselves, who they're trying to target, what they're trying to talk about, what they're trying to sell. And we take this information and we build a complete storyline for them that is SEO optimized. And we also write the content for them. Basically putting them in a position of power, getting from I have no idea how to create a video and what I should be talking about to reach my target audience, to I now have a fully researched, perfectly targeted video script in just a matter of minutes.
And Philip, this is not video like a series that you see on Netflix. It's not even an episode. This is short, high power, high impact videos that you create in this way. What is the average length of a video, just to give users a feel?
Yeah, so at the moment we're focusing on videos that are explainer videos that have a length between 2 to around 6 minutes. So it's really the use cases are usually marketing, brand building, employer branding, sales, even explainer videos that are used for education. So this is the type of video. In the very long run, it might well be possible that we get to a position where people who want to create a 15-minute long video for their YouTube channel, or maybe a 25-minute video, we will be in a position to basically give them a perfectly mapped out storyboard and script that they can then just execute on. But for now, it's medium length.
Okay, and so whether I'm a small business that needs to get my product out there, a CEO that perhaps wants to do some team communications on a regular basis, or someone doing explainer type videos to familiarize users with the product, this is for me, and I can use it, and it's easy. So let's get back into then our slide cadence, where we talk about video making, and creation is actually hard. Philip, let's hear from you.
Yes, absolutely. So let me maybe touch on 2 points. So first of all, the problem and who we are building this for. So the people, whether it's marketers or business owners, they're experts in their jobs, right? So they work on a 9 to 5, to put it simply, and they know exactly their craft. But very often they struggle, especially businesses, smaller businesses that don't have big marketing budgets, to market themselves the best way possible, especially in a world that is digital and changing every 10 years. They always have to stay on top of the game. So essentially they have 2 solutions, right? Either they have the budget to hire an agency or a freelancer or maybe an in-house employee to fully take over, or they learn themselves and understand that having a distribution channel, building a micro community online might take a while, might also be a little bit complicated, but in the long run will pay off because it's gonna convert leads and gonna help them diversify the acquisition. And that's exactly what we're solving for them, right? We are essentially a marketing tool, their marketing strategy tool and the communications tool all packed together. helps them to tell the right stories at the right time to the right audience. And then maybe let's go why video is so hard. So what most of the players in the market at the moment focus on is the very obvious parts. So how can I make recording easy? Because video obviously has to have to do something with recording. And how can I make editing easy? Because every video needs to look slick and have some nice graphics and everything. So that's a very saturated market. But what people are and what we have found talking to our users and our target audience over the last months and years is the real problem they're struggling with is how do I start? So because into video creation, there's many things that go into it, right? Before you start a content piece, you have to do some market research. You have to understand what is your target audience watching, what is your competition doing in the market, what is the right format for you? Is it a 1 minute long video on TikTok? Or is it maybe a 7 minute long video on YouTube or a 4 minute long video on LinkedIn? So you have to understand what content fits to which distribution platform. You then also have to want to build a brand and a community through storytelling rather than sending out content that is hard selling, because hard selling content in today's day and age doesn't really work, and therefore the story is what comes to the forefront. And just to give you maybe a little example that is maybe a little bit more approachable is an example from the movie world. Okay, the one big movie that is coming to the cinemas at the moment is Christopher Nolan's new movie Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer is a massive film, but everything that I will tell you about this film can also be is exactly the same for a small video or a marketing campaign that is smaller that has video in it. So Christopher Nolan actually shot the movie in only 57 days, right? The post-production of the movie was half a year, and the movie is now being released in 2023. But what nobody knows is that Christopher Nolan actually wrote the script based on a video, on a biography on Oppenheimer, which was started in 1979 and was written by 3 authors. And these 3 authors had to conduct several hundreds of interviews to find out what made this Oppenheimer character, what motivated him, what made him special, how he, like, everything that it needs to be in a biography. It took almost 20 years of, or over 20 years of research. And then they obviously had to write it down. So this biography was published in 2005. And then obviously Nolan took this book in 2020, 2019, wrote it, changed it, took all the information from the biography, and then started pre-production. So when you compare the whole value creation process, what you see is that the bulk of work in the creation of a video is always in the pre-production part. And when we now then transfer this knowledge to what is happening in the video market at this moment, everyone is focusing on editing and the recording part, because the targeting, the research, the data collection, what does this data mean for my story? That's actually the hard part, and that's what nobody is touching at the moment.
Okay, fantastic. I like the broad application of the entire solution, Philip. It sounds very, very promising. So maybe when we move on a little bit, turning trends into videos with data.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say at the moment there's 3 big trends that we are riding, or 3 waves that we are riding. The first one is that in the future, I very strongly believe that AI is creating and humans are curating. So the age of the creator is changing, and we are becoming directors of what content we put out there, right? So for us as humans and as curators, it's very, very important to understand how we communicate with an AI and what data we input into the AI. Very simple. If you use ChatGPT at this moment in time, there's a new job that came up in the last year, which is a prompt engineer, right? So what is the difference between a prompt engineer and the layman who's using ChatGPT? It's directing the inputs and the data that goes into the AI to direct the data where you want the AI to go. So that's one big trend. People need to become curators, and people need to have access to the right data to get the right outcomes. And we are delivering this data to them and to the AI. We're basically a data engine between the human and the AI. Then another big trend is the enterprisation of the individual. People, I describe them business owners, they understand that they need to be creating content themselves. And also the production of content obviously is drastically democratizing over the last 10 to 15 years, and this is going to continue. I don't believe that agencies or professionals or experts in the space will go away, but I very strongly believe that the tools that they are going to be using are also going to be used by the masses. Maybe in different subscription tiers, maybe with different feature sets and at different price points. But I think that is definitely going to happen, and companies like Canva show that this is already happening. And then the third trend is the change in consumer behavior, right? The demand for video is increasing drastically, and at the moment, or the data that we have from Statista is that in 2020, 96% of viewers or internet users increased their video consumption, and that 90% of these people, they want to see more video from businesses, and they actually always watch a video before they make a purchase from a company. And that results at the moment in an average watch time per human on Earth of 100 minutes per day. And that's only going to be increasing over the next couple of years.
Now, Philip, okay, I hear you on AI and data, but there are a lot of people playing in the AI and data space now, and the area is certainly attracting a lot of capital investment and a lot of entrepreneurship and innovation. So what's Maekersuite's positioning in the market versus competitors where you play?
Yeah, so I touched on this slightly before. Our positioning in the market is on stories. So what we really want to understand is, or what we're really trying to do is decode storytelling, right? Humans, the reason why we are different, the reasons why we have civilizations, the reasons why we build communities, why we find solutions, why we build companies, why there's football clubs and brand ambassadors and everything, why everything works is because we trust each other, and that trust is built on stories. So I think it's now time to understand what makes good stories. When you go to film school, you have all these different story arcs that you're being taught. Usually if you look at, no matter which movie you look at or which advertising campaign in the past, you could always follow one of these story arcs. One of the most famous one is the hero story, right? It's a guy who or a woman who starts out, something bad is happening. He or she is in the gutter, and then for the rest of the movie, they have to fight themselves back. With the rise of social media and new forms of storytelling like TikTok and YouTube and even Snapchat, these storytelling arcs, they change, they adapt, they always morph into something new, and new things work. And what we want to understand is, what are these parameters that drive a good story? And how can we let you as a user know about them and use this data to tell the AI and tell you what to create next? So that's very, very different to, especially in the video space, where you at the moment look at companies like Stable Diffusion that try to take text into moving images. but they don't necessarily at this moment in time think about, okay, but what actually makes a good text, and what makes a good story, right? ChatGPT also doesn't do that. ChatGPT doesn't try to understand how can I become a good storyteller. They're very good at generally giving you outlines about certain topics. That is also very, very dependent on what data you have fed into the model. Yes. And we are touching both these points, right? So at the moment we are, if you give us a keyword, we're looking throughout the internet, what has already been produced. We save this data, we tag this data, and then we make it digestible for the AI and you to then really make something of it.
Okay. We've touched more or less on whom you are trying to serve with the solution, because clearly that application can be extremely wide. But anything in addition from a target client perspective that you want to add before we go into how big that market really is?
Yes, absolutely. So at the moment, we see 3 different types of users. So the first category is self-employed professionals. These are business owners. These are small businesses that are trying to use explainer content to build their brand. The second one is marketeers. So this can either be employees that work for bigger companies that need to put out content, or those are professionals working for agencies or working for clients to put out more content. And then the third category is educators. This is a very interesting demographic, one that we didn't immediately identify or anticipate when we built the product. But there seems to be a high enough demand from teachers and professors to now convert their analog content into video content. And obviously we feel that our product is suitable for a vast array or big array of different audiences. But we are in the process of finding out who of these demographics we're now focusing on. And as I said before at the beginning of this call, the use cases, they're in media, in social media, in marketing, but also sales, employer branding, and the transfer of knowledge. And then when you think about it on the longer term, what our vision is, it's really about becoming a software as a service platform for creating and managing your business communications through great storytelling.
So if you had to quantify that in terms of numbers for size of market, like what are we talking about here? Just from the education space alone, I mean, that should be a business in and of itself, given the large volume of digital education that's out there. But all these other categories that you're adding, I'm super keen to see what your perception of the size of the market is.
Yes, absolutely. So there's 2 big markets that we're currently touching. The first one is the video analytics market that in 2022 had a size of around $6 billion US dollars, and is projected to grow by a compound annual growth rate of 34% to 28 billion in 2027. That's basically taking into account everything I talked about analytics. So how do videos perform on a views, on a likes, on a comments page, the watch time intensity, so the engagement with the video throughout the process of the video, the SEO capability of video content. So these are all essentially video companies that focus solely on analytics. The second market that we are touching slightly is the production services. So and the editing tools, which is a very new category in the market. So the production services, who are these players? Those are freelancers, those are creative agencies and production companies like the one I used to have before. And this market in 2022 was around 30 billion USD and is projected to grow to around 50 billion by 2027. And then we have a very new market, which is the video editing market, which is not so old, which is projected to grow to around 3 billion in 2027. And why am I saying we are only touching parts of the production market? That's because we are at the moment not focusing on the recording and the editing part of the equation, but on the upfront part, the pre-production part, the management, the collaboration, the storytelling, the writing of the story, essentially.
Philip, if you zoom out, you're going to cause potentially a lot of disintermediation here, where it sounds like a lot of this is agency work that's now being enabled through Maekersuite as a tool. Are you seeing the future here as a view, your view of the world in the future as perhaps a world where that agency has been displaced and it's more freelance and individuals doing this? Or just talk me through what this does to that market.
Yeah, so the way that my vision for Maekersuite is very simple. I want to build something that can be used by everyone who has a business and who wants to create video. I want to always offer a subscription tier or subscription tiers that have that are not so expensive, that are easily accessible, and that put people in the position of power of telling good stories, right? The initial idea of Maekersuite was built on, like, we talked to hundreds of business owners and we asked them how they would like to use media, and we wanted to help these people. We wanted to give them something that puts them in a position of power to create beautiful stories that convert leads, very simple, and build their brand. At a later stage of the business, when we have more features, more complex features, when we take into account legal requirements and like GDPR and data protection, and in a lot more sophisticated way than we're doing at this moment, or can do at this moment because of the size of our company, I want to basically offer Pro Tools to professionals like freelancers who do this for a living, right? To freelancers, but also to agencies, creative agencies, marketing agencies, and enterprise, who can use this tool at a different scale. And that's how I see it. I don't see that agencies. I think agencies are getting a harder and harder time. That's also why I decided to do something differently. Just to give you a very small reference, when I started producing ads for automotive companies, budgets were easily in the hundreds of thousands, sometimes in the millions. After 5 years, budgets had decreased drastically and were only in the low hundreds of thousands. Because everything gets more efficient, right? Cameras get more efficient, distribution gets more efficient, creativity and how we collaborate gets more efficient. And we are gonna be one of. I'm not saying we're gonna work on putting agencies out of business, but we are helping those who survive and who are really good at their job to do their job even better.
Yeah. Well, Philip, when you talk, I can just involuntarily in my mind's eye see Peter Diamandis' 6 Ds of disruption. So the digitizing of an industry, which clearly you're busy doing here, which undergoes a deceptive growth phase and then suddenly becomes disruptive because it's demonetized. So you talked about subscription models, and we're going to get into your revenue model in a second. And also democratizes in that this tool is so easy to use, to your own words, something for everyone to be able to use. So really, it's going to be about understanding how that business model works in order to get you to that point of large-scale adoption. So let's switch to that and talk a little bit about how your business model operates.
Yes, absolutely.
Because you mentioned subscriptions.
Yes, absolutely. So at the moment, we work with a subscription on a subscription tier basis. You basically pay a monthly fee, and with this fee comes a certain amount of credits that you can use throughout the process, and you basically use up these credits while you create stuff. So why are we doing this? Obviously, because we use some third-party technology. I mentioned OpenAI earlier in this conversation. Obviously, there's a little fee that we have to pay. So this credit system allows us to always stay on top of the fees that our users create that end up on our have to be paid side of things. And what happens is that users, if they have used their credits, they can always book additional credits throughout the month. And then after the month, they're basically, depending on what subscription they're in, they get topped up with a new amount of credits for the month. And that really allows us to stay in a very high margin area. It's a little bit early to say at this moment in time, but we anticipate our margins to stay between 60 and 70%. We've only released our paywall just a couple of weeks ago, so that's the reason why I'm saying it's a little bit early to tell. But that's essentially the business model. So recurring subscription model.
Okay, so now then the question, of course, is, has it worked so far? And I can appreciate new inventions and interventions such as paywalls and some such, but just talk us through and give investors an idea of traction that you've had to date. It's all good and well to say we're going to solve this problem and here's how the money is going to flow in, but has it been flowing? Talk us through your traction stats, please.
Yes, absolutely. So we have published the first version of the tool, or the MVP, in April of this year. Okay. And as I said, we're not doing much of marketing. We're not spending anything on marketing except for the production of our own SEO content, which we're very religious about at this moment in time. And we currently have 7,000 people using the product. And at the current growth rate, we grow with around 2,000 to 1,000 to 1,300 users per month. We see the traction with the demographics that I've described earlier, and that's also why we want to use the money that we're raising the way we want to use it, which is for product and for marketing, because we really now feel very confident about the users and who see value in this, and we now want to enter a growth stage, or increase our growth over the next couple of months. And currently we're making around $2,200 per month in recurring revenue. So also it's early days, but we're very proud of it.
Of course. Let me just get that number right. $2,200 off of the 7,600 users as the more or less monthly, which means that not all of them are paying, and that is the paywall that you've made reference to. Some are still on a free model.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Philip, sounds very promising. We love the idea that there are some green shoots in that someone is already paying you on a recurring basis, which means product market fit works. Now it's about scaling. And one of the very first questions that we always ask in scaling is, who's going to do this? So you got to talk to us about who the team is, because I think a lot of the confidence around the business model and the achievement of your vision revolves around who you have on board. So I know you have a slide prepared on team. Let's talk about who they are and why this is the group of people that investors should back to make this vision into a reality.
Yes, absolutely. So obviously, I'm part of that team. Then also my co-founder, Stephanie, who's the CFO of the company, who is ex-Bain, ex-Berkeley, has done lots of work on customer segmentation. We have our wonderful CTO, Davide, who is the most senior employee. He has over 12 years of software engineering experience, including strong emphasis on user interface design and user experience. He is our architect and also front-end guy. And then we have our young shot and little magician, Felix, who is the head of AI, who has a very deep technical background in large language models, who has been playing with and working with large language models for the last couple of years. He has also a very strong background in data processing, which he studied at PhD level. And then also prior to joining Maekersuite, Felix has also successfully built his own company that he has already sold. That was an AI consulting and AI development company, where they also worked with very heavily on text for clients like CERN or the Max Planck Institute in Germany. We then have also a very strong back end, who is also a systems architect. And on the marketing side, we have I would call her our star player, Ashanya, who is our marketing advisor at this moment in time. She's the former vice president in marketing of Framer, which is a direct competitor to Canva, very successful company, which she built or helped build from just a couple of employees into a multi-hundred employee company. And yeah, she's basically the SEO and the SaaS marketing specialist. And then we also obviously have nothing works without design. We have a designer and also a customer success manager, Bill and Ian, who help us create great designs, but also have happy customers.
Okay. All right. You've got a star-studded team there. I want to ask you a little bit about your strategic roadmap, but at this stage of the game, I think it's also important for us to get into exactly just how this investment structure will work. So let me park the questions around strategic roadmap, how you aim to achieve it, path to profitability that have been coming through on my end. But just quickly hand over to Blake to say, all right, if investors like this, Blake, then obviously there's a structure through which to get into Maekersuite as a participating investor. Let's just illuminate a little bit of what that looks like before we go into the Ask Me Anything session.
Sure. Thanks, Philip. So as I mentioned, we are partnering with Vauban. They have done this thousands, if not tens of thousands of times. The structure, it sounds technical, but essentially it's a nominee or bear trust structure in which investors will have a beneficial ownership by signing a subscription agreement or an admission form. This can all be done through the Vauban platform. And this is a very plain vanilla, it's a tax neutral and it's a well-trodden structure that investors can have confidence in. It is based in the UK. You do not have to be a UK tax resident. You can be, as I mentioned earlier, from the UK, Europe, Africa. If you are from the US, there is a separate structure, but we can answer those questions post-webinar. And essentially what the structure allows us to do is to lower the ticket sizes right the way down to £1,000. And so thus democratizing access to this opportunity, which Philip is particularly excited about and is part of the DNA of simple.Capital. So the investment instrument will be preferred shares. And so you can see there Vauban Nominees Limited, which is the nominee structure, will be the legal owner of those preferred shares, which are subscribed for into Maekersuite Limited, which is the Maekersuite UK domiciled entity. So as low as $1,000, pre-money valuation of £5 million. Those are the same terms as the seed round, as a seed extension round, preferred equity, and a deadline by the end of August. No additional annual fees and no carried interest.
Okay. Blake, if people want to express their interest or kick off this call to action, I think we've got slide 18 for that, if memory serves. And that's the QR code to scan, ladies and gents. We did put the highlights of this funding round on screen. And if you hover your smart device over that QR code, that doesn't take you to WhatsApp. That kicks off the actual process of becoming an investor. You'll find a form on the back end of that, which you complete. and then takes you through the process. And as you heard, Blake, hold me honest here, as we say there, end of August is the deadline for this particular raise.
Correct. And just to correct an earlier mistake, just to reiterate, it's a £750,000 raise, of which 400,000 is already committed by an existing investor. So a lot of confidence and conviction by the investors to follow on their initial investment. Earlier, I mentioned that it was a dollar-based raise. It is a pound-based raise.
Blake, thanks for that. The difference between the 400 and the 750, in other words, is what is available as at today for users to subscribe into. So it's not that we're raising an additional 750. It's 750 total, 400's already committed, and we're looking for the difference.
Correct.
Right, there we go. Philip, do you want to maybe just use key highlights and talk us through, use the key highlights rather as a conversation piece around profitability, and maybe weave into this slide some of your views of strategic roadmap and, you know, what comes next and what are the big things to look out for?
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? So in terms of strategic roadmap and what we are doing, obviously there's different time horizons, right? So in the long run, our goal is really we will offer a very streamlined process for content creation that allows you to collaborate with others and manage everything in one place, but also uses AI along every step of the value creation process. As you know, at the moment, we only do this for analytics and script writing, but in the future, we also want to do it or offer it for storyboarding, target segmentation or market segmentation, campaigns, targeting and planning, competitor analysis, and even in the far future for moving images. In the next 12 months, what our focus is really going to be is make our analytics a lot stronger, collect the right data, tag the right data, because that's everything. Everything is built on our data sets. We then obviously want to improve our product, improve the recommendations that we make, improve the outputs that we make, and also allow users to take those outputs and maybe not only get a video script, but also get other parts or other content pieces. So for example, video descriptions, captions, tweets, LinkedIn posts, because a video script essentially is the holy grail of content, and then you can extrapolate or extract a lot of different content pieces from that. On an 18-month basis, I think what is also relevant is to add new features like dashboards and the collaboration. And also, we are always monitoring what is happening in the market. We are in a very fast-paced market, and we need to stay on top of the game and always look out for the best technology that we can then include in our product. On a profitability, on the question about the path to profitability, currently in our business plan, we are expecting to be profitable with the expected growth and the growth of the team in Q3, Q4 2024. So around October next year. And then maybe what else do you want me to touch on? Maybe a little bit also on technology, the tech stack that we're currently using, which is very, very important, because obviously everything we do aims to be scalable. So I don't want to go into too much detail about which programming languages we are using and everything, but essentially we're building everything on a serverless infrastructure that allows us to completely scale up everything depending on what the demand is. At the moment, we're using a company called Superbase for their cloud services, and in the next 12 months, we're probably also going to migrate to our AWS account, which we are currently using for the fast API instances that make the communication possible between our database and the AI tools that we have integrated.
Philip, if I am an investor, and of course I am, so I guess I ask this a little bit selfishly and also on behalf of investors that are sitting listening to this and saying, surely the future has to be more video orientated than text orientated. I mean, that we can see it in how the world is evolving and digitizing. So tick, that positions Maekersuite well. Use of AI to help with script writing, so I don't spend hours and hours and hours trying to redefine and wordsmith my text, only to record it for the first time and then realize, there's a whole bunch of mistakes in here, whether that's grammar or syntax or whatever the case might be. So a tool that helps me get rid of all that pain, tick. AI in that use, fantastic, tick. Now, AI, lots of hype and capital around it, and lots of misunderstanding potentially. But so now easy for investors to say, but isn't ChatGPT and the visual equivalent of ChatGPT, like a Dell-E, competition for Maekersuite? And does that not threaten my investment? So you as the founder, CEO, what's your view on these large capital-based AI tools that have made it into the market that seem to be swimming around the waters where you find yourself as Maekersuite?
Yes, absolutely. So there's two things. First of all, AI, I understand it as the new infrastructure of basically the new infrastructure of the future, right? These large language models, they're basically a new infrastructure like the internet was a couple of years ago. And on top of this infrastructure, there's going to be new businesses that are built on top of that. For specific use cases. So we can already see this right now. DALL-E, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, ChatGPT, they're not perfectly suited for very specific use cases, right? You have to be an expert, or you have to be. So I became an expert in using ChatGPT for the video use case, and I did this over the course of the last 6 months. Others are becoming experts for something else. So there's a second a first layer that sits on top that talks about the use case and addresses the problems that this specific use case has. And that's where companies like Maekersuite come into place, or where also all plugins come into place, right? You have to think about the user interface. You have to think about all the different needs that these use cases demand, and I see these tools as basically the groundwork that everything else is going to be built upon. That's how I understand it, and that's how I see it. And now I forgot the second part of your question.
I guess it was more a case of saying there's a lot of capital coming, and AI is a very broad term that a lot of people misunderstand. And so do you have AI threats to Maekersuite? But what you've articulated is great news, because from a vision perspective, it articulates that you want to be one of the bricks in the foundation of this new era of digital content creation. There's a saying, Philip, that says AI is not going to take jobs, contrary to common misconception, but people that have learned to use AI tools will be better suited employees. And from everything that you're showing us here, you're taking a shot at creating an AI-enabled tool for a wide variety and a very large addressable market, which as an investor, I like the path that you're headed towards.
100%. And what you have to understand is AI is really good at understanding data and making sense of data, right? And as I said before, is you can use like Salesforce, all these big players, they will use AI at certain steps of their value creation process, but they can't use it for everything, because it's like when you look at at script writing, for example, there are certain parts that are a collaborative effort, right? There are certain parts that require you to pick up a phone and call a camera operator to come to your office. You know, these are things that maybe in the future, yes, AI will do, but at the moment, there's still a lot of manual work that needs to be streamlined and can be made more efficient by a solution that addresses this very specific use case to the extent that they think about all the different problems that users have. They offer a solution, whether it has AI or whether it's a little bit more old school, and over the course of time, gradually improves the value proposition. And yeah, that's how I understand Maekersuite. And there's a massive opportunity. And as I said to you before, you're 100% correct in saying that AI is going to be a tool just like Photoshop, right? Yes. You have to learn how to use it. If you don't know how to take data, prompt it correctly, you will not get the outcome that you want. And there needs to be a data engine between the human, the data, and the AI, and that's going to be Maekersuite for video.
I love it. I want to invite our users to connect with you. We've used the allocated hour that we've planned to use, but this is a QR code that kicks you into a WhatsApp group and stays live. So ladies and gents, if you're watching this, whether it's live or in the recorded fashion, use this QR code to jump onto the group and engage with simple.Capital and with Philip from Maekersuite to ask questions about Maekersuite and this wonderful tool that they're busy creating. That's the first invitation I want to give to our users. The second invitation is, if you liked what you saw today, there's an expression of interest QR code that gets you on board with this journey as an investor into Maekersuite. You click that and we've got a process in the background that'll pick you up and facilitate your journey to become a part of the Investor Corps. And then Philip, I'm going off script here, but a third thing that I want to invite our users to do is use Maekersuite.
Absolutely.
You've got paywalls. They don't need to pay $80 to give it a try. And if you're a business that is direct to consumer, why not try Maekersuite in its free version to see if you get better user engagement? If you're a CEO or a business leader or perhaps a team leader and you need to communicate certain short form communications to your users, why not try to move away from email, inspire your teams, and use a tool like Maekersuite with which to drive your message? You've got nothing to lose. And if Philip is 50% correct, you will save time, do it a lot cheaper, and be doubling on your impact, which by my count is a 6x up from what you would have done. So I think you've got nothing to lose. And Philip is on the other side of this QR code as well, the first one that we showed you. And Philip's, I think, wonderful tool. A great set of opportunities that you have here, and first mover is going to seize a lot of the market. So from a simple.Capital perspective, thanks for joining us today and exposing your wonderful organization and tool. Good luck to you and your team.
Thank you very much.
We hope to be doing a lot more with Maekersuite and seeing you out there in the market space.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me. And yes, please, everyone, use the tool. Reach out to us and tell us about the problems that you want to have solved, and yeah, always open for feedback.
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. We remain yours in prosperity, and until the next time, thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.